In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the top 5 most profitable knife and golf trade-ups right now in CS2. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, just before we actually get into the video, I'd like to point out that I'm currently giving away this Scout Acid Fade and this M4A1S Night Terror currently in my Discord. And all you have to do in order to enter is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and then join my Discord, and then you can go ahead and enter through there. So good luck to everyone who enters. Alright, let's get right into the video. And just before we actually get into the first trade-up, I would like to give a quick word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Tradeup Lab. Now, Tradeup Lab is a site that lets you do trade-ups very fast and very easy because you actually don't have to do any of the work yourself apart from buying the items. So as you can see, I'm on Tradeup Lab right now and I'll demonstrate how it works. So you go onto tradeuplab.com. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below, and then you just go and click view profitable trade-ups, and then you've got all of these trade-ups where it's literally just showing you all the trade-up possibilities. So let me just take this one for an example. It's 6 items from the Chroma collection, it's 4 items from the Winter Offensive collection, and you need, as you can see, 6 Desert Eagle Naga for X price and X float, and then you need 4x Nova Rising Skull for X price and X float, and then it shows you the average float input and the input cost, and then the profit, and then the profitability, right? So as you can see, this costs you around $87. If you scroll down a bit, you can see that it shows you all the items as well that you can get. So the best item is obviously the M4A4 Dragon King in factory new condition, worth 160 bucks, which means you're literally doubling your money on one trade up. And this is just one of the great trade ups that the site offers. You know, there's plenty of them. There's literally pages upon pages, and you can literally go up here and then you can decide to say, hey, what cost do I want? What's my budget? So say it's under $20, and then click filter. It will show you all the trade ups that the site has to offer under $20, which is quite sick. You know, like there's so many options here in order for you to actually make some humongous profit, right? The only downside is, of course, you have to go buy the items yourself, but that only makes sense, right? Otherwise, I'd just go ham buying all sorts of stuff. But overall, this is really great site, and of course, I've used it before for my own trade-up videos. So if you guys want to check it out, I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. And thank you, Tradeup Lab, for sponsoring this video. All right, let's get straight on to the first trade-up. So the first trade-up of this video is going to be a mixture between the Phoenix collection and the Dreams and Nightmares collection. As you guys can see, you need 4 items from the Phoenix collection, which is the All Chameleon, and you need 1 item from the Dreams and Nightmares collection. You need an average flow of 0.25 of the All Chameleon because that's the cheapest on the market currently, and you need an average flow of 0.35 on the Starlight Protector. They all come out around the price of $60. Of course, this price really fluctuates a lot. You know, it can go anything from 60 to 65 and then down to 55 and go up to 70. It really depends on when you buy these items, of course. But let's hit the magic button, calculate outcomes. Whap! And as you guys can see, there's a 146 profitability chance here, which is great overall, of course. Now there's a 46.6% success rate, which overall is pretty great considering it is obviously knives, so you know there's not going to be 100% guaranteed here because that would be insane. It's knives after all. Now obviously there's so many knives here, so I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to show you the best one, and then I'll talk a bit about that. Now the best knife that you can get in this is obviously the Butterfly Gamma Doppler. As you guys can see, Tradeup Lab has updated the UI now, so you can go down and find the green one, and then that's going to be the best outcome in this trade-up, of course. Now the Butterfly Gamma Doppler, there's not much to say. It is one of the most expensive knives in the game, and of course the Butterfly Emerald, I think, still is the most expensive knife in the game to this day, you know, besides the Karambit Blue Gem. Speaking of which, there is actually the Karambit case on here too, which obviously if you get a really good Karambit case hardened Blue Gem, then it might be worth a bit more than the Butterfly Gamma Doppler, but like the chance of hitting that is very slim, so we're just gonna go by the green one and say that is the most expensive knife, you know, outside of the patterns, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of good knives in this trade-up, of course, you can get. You mainly want to be looking at getting the Butterfly Gamma Doppler, of course, but any Butterfly knife is really good. Obviously, Karambit and M9 is really good as well, and you can get some really good patterns there too. But like the chase item is the Butterfly Gamma Doppler, as the site does state. Now with that being said, there's not much to say about this trade-up. It's pretty good as a mixture, and you know, there's a pretty good profitability chance. So overall, I'd say it's pretty nice. So without further ado, let's just get right into the second trade-up of this video. Now the second trade-up of this video is a bit of a classic. Well, I say classic, you know, this is still a fairly new update, but it is the Breakout Collection trade-up. As you can see, you need 5 P90 Asimov, and they've been pumped like crazy. When I last checked, they were like $80, but now they're literally $136, and they're probably going up by the minute. But it's still a great trade overall. You need 5 P90 Asimovs. There's not much to say. Let's just hit calculate outcomes. Now, if you do calculate outcomes, you'll be able to see there's a 160% profitability chance with an 84.6% success rate. This is probably like the best trade-ups in terms of like, you know, making profit on the actual trade-up because it's only butterflies, and 84.6% success rate is quite insane. Now, as you can see, you are spending $680, and the cheapest butterfly knife in this trade-up is probably the Safari Mesh. It's not even the Safari Mesh, it's actually the Butterfly Knight, I've just noticed, which is quite insane considering it's still $600. So you're only going to lose $80 at the very least, it seems, which is overall pretty good, I'd say. Now, the chase item in this trade up is obviously the butterfly fade, which is really good overall. Otherwise, I'd also say the butterfly case harden is pretty good because you're gonna obviously get a blue gem out there, which, as I just said before, it's still like one of the best knives if you get a good blue gem. But let's look away from the patterns and then just look at like what the highlighted item is, which obviously is the butterfly fade, which is still really, really good. Now, there's not much to say about this trade up. It's just a bunch of butterflies, and obviously any butterfly knife is pretty cool. There's the vanilla, the fade, the crimson web, the slaughter. There's a lot of crazy knives that you can get in here, and it's really, really good. So if you guys want the best chance to probably make a profit, I'd say you gotta look into doing the breakout trade up. Still, like, it's still one of the best trade ups, if not the best trade ups for knives. Now, that being said, there's not a lot to say about this trade up. It's literally just a butterfly knife. There's not anything else to say about it. It's just butterfly knives, make some profit. Yeah, good luck. Well, that being said, let's just get right into the third trade up of this video. So the third trade up is a bit of a controversial because this is not a knife trade up, even though I did say that, in the intro there's going to be knives, but there's also going to be gloves. Now, I've only decided to include one glove trade up because I feel like it's very expensive. As you guys can see, it's just a glove collection. There's not much to say about it. You need 5 Scout Dragonfire because the Buzzkill is heavily overpriced right now because the Chinese people are pumping it. They're going to cost you around 150 quid for each, and the float is going to be 0.41. Now, the reason why the float is so high on this item is because every single like factory new item of this is mad expensive, like super duper expensive. So you're not going to be able to get those for an affordable price. And of course, like, no one wants to spend 2,500 in trade up and then risk getting a glove worth like 200 quid, right? So I've decided to just go for the cheapest one on the market. And then if you guys obviously want to adjust the floats and stuff to get a better glove, then obviously you can. But let's hit the calculate outcomes. And as you guys can see, the profitability is a little bit worse than some of the other trade ups, and there's a reason for it. Now, the main reason is that there is a lot of bad gloves, but obviously there is also some pretty good stuff that you can get. Now, the best gloves that you can get in this case is obviously the Hitch Maze, and right behind it is the Pandora's boxes. But besides that, there's still the Crimson Kimonos and the Superconductors, which is really nice, and also the Emerald Web, I'd say pretty cool. Now, if you start getting the better float items, like let's say you get the minimal wear or field tested even, obviously these gloves are going to increase in price heavily, very fast, because the better condition gloves you get, more they're going to be worth on the market. Now, all gloves are very pattern based, like they're very float based and stuff. If they got scratches on the knuckle, they're not going to be worth as much, but if you do get something that's clean, it's going to sell for a whole lot more on the market. But that is something that you're going to have to look up on Steam because there's like humongous amounts of gloves, and I don't want to go through every single one of them on this video, otherwise the video will literally be like an hour long. I don't think anyone wants that. Now, generally speaking, obviously the Hedge Mace is best, but I'd say Pandora boxes is really like close behind it. Superconductors are super nice as well, and the Crimson Kimono, you can get some good patterns. Now, there is one glove that people sleep on in this trade up, which is the Spearman gloves, because they can sell for a whole lot more if you get them in a good float, because in Battlescar they're only $500. So the best thing you can do if you don't want to do this for Battlescar gloves is up the condition of the items that you're buying, obviously the Dragon's Fire, a little bit more, so you can get at least like a well-worn to a field-tested glove. And then if you do get that, you're gonna get a whole lot more money for this. This means that this $3,700 glove is gonna be worth like 13K instead. Like it increases so much more in value if you get them in field tested. But obviously the items are more expensive, so that's something you have to take into consideration. But I mean, overall for this trade up, spending $750 and then you'll be able to get a $3,700 glove is pretty good overall, I'd say. You're still making like $3,000. But as I said, make sure to see if you can get something that's a bit lower float, but still, around a decent price. I wouldn't go above $200 for these items, otherwise it's going to be really expensive really soon. But there's not much to say about this. This is just the only glove trade up there is in this video, and I thought it was pretty cool to include it because gloves are really underappreciated in my opinion. So that being said, let's just get right into the second to last trade up of this video. Now, the second to last trade up in this video is a mixture between the Spectrum collection and the Breakout collection, as you can see. Obviously, we already gone through the Breakout collection, so I'm not gonna like hover over that like crazy. I mainly want to focus on the USP Neo Noir because you're gonna spend like around $70 for each and get them around an average float of 0.25. That is the lowest price on the market, by the way. Well, around there at least. I think the field test is like the cheapest you can get right now, which is still okay. Now, let's hit calculate outcomes and let's just see what you actually can get from this. So as you guys can see, it's actually not terrible because you're spending around $416. And as I said, I'm not going to go through the stuff you can get in the Breakout collection because we've already been through that. But there's still 154% profitability, which is quite insane. And the main stuff that you want to look at is actually the fact that the Butterfly Marble Fade is in here, plus the Butterfly Doppler, which means yes, you can get a Butterfly Ruby. You can also get a Butterfly Sapphire, plus the Butterfly Tiger Tooth is here too. That means you've added like a bunch of extra butterfly knives, which means this is basically a butterfly trade up. Now you can remove one USP Neo Noir and then add a, let's say a MP9 Starlight Protector, and then that would give you even more butterfly knives you can get, which means you can get all of the gems of butterflies. But I decided to go with this. If you guys want to tweak it, you can, of course. I'm not here to say you should do this, but this is like what I recommend at least. Other than that, there is still a few gems like the Bowie, which you can get a Sapphire or Ruby, which will still obviously be profit. I'm just not a humongous fan of the Bowie, but you know, certain people do like it, which is totally fair. So overall, this trade up is really, really nice. And this is one of the ones that I was looking into doing maybe if I were to do a knife trade up myself, even though it's 400 bucks. So there's not much else to say about this trade up. I feel it's really overall like one of the best trade ups that you can do in terms of getting knives right now. So with that being said, let's get right into the final trade up of this video. Now, the final trade up of this video is another classic if you ask me. It's just the revolver case collection. You know, you need 5 Irish revolver fades because I think that's the only red in that case. They're gonna cost you around right around 65 bucks per item. And let's just hit calculate outcomes. And as you can see, there's 139% profitability and a 50% success rate, which is pretty good. Now, the most expensive item that you can get in this trade up is the Karambit Fade, which does cost around $3,000, which is very expensive, obviously. It's knives after all. But there's so many good Karambits in here. Plus, there's the M9s and there's the bayonets and whatnot. Obviously, there is also the Shadow Daggers. Sorry, not Shadow Daggers. There is the Gut Knife in here. I do apologize. I feel like this is one of the cases that has like one of, you know, the most classic knives in here because we got the Flip Knife, the Bayonet, the M9, and the Karambit, and the Gut. So overall, this is really nice trade up. You know, it's not going to cost you a whole lot. It's cost you 325 bucks and the expected value is 452, which means if you do hit the Karambit, you're nearly 10xing your money. Just, you know, really, really good. But again, this is very expensive trade-ups, so don't expect too much because you can also lose a lot of it. Now, that is going to mark the end of this video. I really hope guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like on it and then subscribe, of course, and then leave a comment about it down below what you thought of this. Then I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.